Hey y'all, it's Coach K, and I want to welcome you to the Life Lesson Series. This month, we've been talking all about self confidence, and we've been using the functions of a tree to teach us different spiritual principles and things that we can put in place to help us to learn how to become more self confident. Week one, we talked about the kingdom point of view versus the world point of view. So, our topic was the roots. We learned that it's so important for us to see the world through God's lens, the kingdom point of view, because it allows us to show compassion. It allows us to be better at handling people and handling ourselves. And most importantly, it allows us to have a filter that helps us to do things in the right heart posture. Week two, we explored the trunk and we found out that the tree has multiple layers of protection that helps to protect its heartwood, which is the main function of the tree. This part this part of the tree allows the food to be transported to the right place, the water to be transported, and it allows the tree to do exactly what it needs to do to thrive and to grow. But if the heartwood gets infected or the trunk gets damaged, it can damage the tree for good and make it die. Like pretty much, it causes it to die and decay. Week three, we explored the branches and how its sole purpose is to hold the leaves up in the air so that it can absorb the light, so that photosynthesis can happen and the tree can produce its own food and reproduce. And I think that the last week was so amazing because it just explains or it just exposed why it's so important to be surrounded by light and to allow yourself to absorb God's light so that you can be able to pull yourself out of dark situations and be able to thrive and be able to understand his word and know how to apply it to your life. And now this week, we're talking about the fruits and the flowers. We're talking about the crown, y'all. The crown where everything lives, where the living organism lives, the reproduction process. Um, the crown is so amazing because every tree is completely different. There are some trees that, you know, look real skinny and narrow. There are some that are full. There are some that are just flat. Like it just depends on, you know, what area it's in and how it's placed in the space, how it's positioned. And we learned that pretty much there are different canopy shapes and they all are impacted by the amount of light that they absorb and how they absorb the light. The crown is made up of branches and leaves, and each branch absorbs light from the sun, water from the roots, and continues to receive nutrients from the trunk. The sole purpose is to reproduce and food for the make food for the tree. The crown goes through the most change because it's impacted by the season that it's in. But the main thing about the tree in the crown is the fact that it's going to always adjust to whatever season it's in, and it's going to make sure that it does what it needs to do to ensure that that tree continues to produce and creates the opportunity for it to create life. There are many different canopy styles or shapes. So you have like the round, you have the oval, you have the weeping willow, the trees that kind of like limp like this. You have the palm trees. We all know a palm tree when we see it because of California. Then you have crown class. So the tree's crown size is compared to the trees around it to determine its crown class. You have your dominant trees. They tend to be extremely high and tall, and they extend beyond the other trees around it because they absorb more light. They'll absorb light from the top and all the way around the tree. So it causes it to grow way bigger, way taller, way fuller than any other tree. Then you have your co-dominant trees. They share space with the other trees, so they tend to have shaded areas and they get their light directly from the top. This causes the tree to be a little bit shorter than the dominant trees. Then you have the intermediate trees. These trees are slightly shorter. These trees receive light from above only, not from the side, not from the left, not from the right, not from the bottom. It only receives its light from the top. So that causes it to grow really narrow. Then you have your suppressed trees. These trees do not receive light at all. So they tend to be really small. So this causes their growth to be stunted. Now, these different types of trees can represent so many different types of people. There's so many similarities when it comes to us in these types of trees. But the good thing about it is that we have the option and the opportunity to determine the light that we receive. We have the power to make sure that we are being intentional about absorbing God's light, but we have to make that decision and we have to do our part so that we can make sure that we flourish and grow and that we produce flowers and produce fruit as well, that we produce a harvest. So now that leads me to the flowers and the fruit. To put it plainly, the flowers and the fruit that a tree bears represents reproduction. Basically, if a tree is able to produce fruit or flowers, it has solidified its legacy to create another tree or to reproduce. The one thing that I love about the tree process and how it grows is the fact that it uses everything to make sure that the process is complete. It does not skip steps. It does not skip the process. It does not, jump over the process. It literally weathers the storm. It stands still and it takes whatever it's given and adjusts accordingly so that it can make sure that the end goal is a harvest, that it produces, that it creates life, that it develops, fully. So I think that we can learn a lot from a tree because honestly, the difference between us and the tree is that the tree stands still and we tend to leap and move and run whenever we get in uncomfortable situations. Each part of the process is intricate and intentional. Nothing is wasted when it comes to the process. Ironically, our lives are very similar. We don't get the luxury of seeing things fully through because we uproot every time we get uncomfortable, every time we get upset, every time there's bad weather. We tend to try to uproot and leave. We can learn a lot from a tree about the art of being still. No matter what, that tree is going to stand firm and deeply rooted in the soil. It weathers every storm and it has mastered the art of adjusting. In every season, the tree makes the necessary changes to ensure that it maximizes the season it's currently in. And that's extremely powerful. That's extremely powerful. And I wish that we were more like a tree. So if you were to ask me, how do I become more self-confident? The first thing I would say is the tree has given us the cheat code. We must make sure that we're deeply rooted in the right soil. Secondly, we must stop picking up offense and we must make sure that we create layers of protections around our heart. That protection is vital because it's going to help us to stay on the right path. And it's going to make sure that we don't allow our heart to get damaged and decay prematurely. Thirdly, we must live a holy life and build a personal relationship with God. This will allow us to absorb His light, so that we can make sure that we grow full and happy and joyful and with the right intention. And lastly, we must make adjustments as needed and learn to stand still, just like the tree. No matter what's going on, no matter what's happening, we have to learn how to weather the storm because there is value in the process. It's going to be so vital that we learn how to embrace our own unique crown. And what I mean by that is God gives us so many different, opportunities to step into a role or to, take on different challenges or to really be stretched. But a lot of times we tend to run, we tend to hide, we tend to uproot because we don't want the responsibility. We don't want to endure the journey to get prepared for what it is he's calling us towards. So it's going to be extremely vital that we learn how to just embrace everything. Nothing is wasted. Everything is used. God is going to use every part of our experience to make sure that he puts us in position to thrive and to make sure that we have everything internally that we need to be able to weather any storm that we may face out here in this crazy world. But we must stay rooted. We got to stay deeply rooted. And we got to make sure that we are mastering the art of adjusting. There's going to be so many things that tries to, knock us off our post or tries to chop us down. But if we learn how to shift in the right way in every season and make sure that we are maximizing every season, we will be able to, ensure that life will go on and that we will have a deep legacy, a great legacy, a kingdom legacy. And lastly, basically, the art of being still just simply means learning how to trust God. God is not always going to speak. He's not always going to show you something as a sign. Like he's not going to demonstrate it all the time. Sometimes He's going to be quiet because he is working. In those moments, you have to trust that God is doing exactly what he needs to do. And if you ever get to a point where you feel like he's not, or you're scared, or you feel some type of way about it, just look at the track record. Think back over your life and think about the things that he has brought you through. Think about how he's made a way out of no way numerous times, and that if he did it before, he'll do it again. You got to make sure that you don't allow your circumstances or this craziness that's happening around you to change the way that you view what God is doing, or the way that you view life. So the moral of the story is, in order to be self-confident, you must know who your creator is. You must understand his characteristics, and you must understand the role that you play in the kingdom. Once you understand your identity and the role that you play, it's a lot easier to be self-confident in everything that you do, because you know you're not doing it alone. You are literally attached to the tree of life. You're attached to, the vine, the roots, everything that God provides. Jeremiah 17:7-8 says, "Blessed are those who trust in the Lord and have made the Lord their hope and confidence. They're like trees planted along a riverbank with roots that reach deep into the water. Such trees are not bothered by the heat or worried by long months of drought. Their leaves stay green and they never stop producing fruit." We want to be like those trees, but we have to first put our heart, put our trust, our love, and our confidence in God. And as we seek him first, he will add everything else to us. So as you continue to journey throughout this life, I want you to be mindful about where you're placing your confidence in, where you're placing your trust in, and know that with God, you can't lose. He's going to make sure that he always replenishes you. You're going to always produce. It doesn't matter if it's a horrible season. The soil could be looking crazy for other folks, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't rain. God controls the rain. If you are attached to God, you are attached to living water. So he will always produce. He will always allow you to experience a harvest. It may not look how you want it to look, but know that as long as you know the who, you don't have to worry about the how. So, all right, y'all, until next time, stay focused, trust God, and respect the process. I'm Coach K. Check out our weekly blog, and be sure to tap in so that you can make sure that you're getting all the content that we're creating. Next month, we will have a totally different life lesson. I hope that this month you've been able to, grow a little bit, to extend your self-confidence, and to understand that it's directly attached to our Lord and Savior. It's attached to God. It's attached to, being connected to the kingdom. And once you get connected to the kingdom, you become royalty. So this week, I want to inspire you or encourage you to embrace your crown, and know that if you can't do it, or you feel like you can't do it, know that God has your back. He will fight your battles, and he got you. All right, y'all. Talk to you later. I love you. Have a great week. Bye.